I grew up in the church. All my family, we'd be going to church probably 4 or 5 times a week. Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. I knew the gospel in and out. I knew how sinful we were and needing of a Savior. I knew who Jesus was and what He did. But there was a problem. I knew in my heart I wasn't saved. Either I was unwilling to give my life to Christ, or I didn't know how to do it, or maybe I felt like I was doing it wrong. So I can think of a lot of the times growing up where it'd be late at night and I'd be just really emotional about knowing my future if I didn't accept Christ as my Savior. So a lot of times I'd be praying late at night and it seemed like nothing would change. I didn't feel any different. If I really was a Christian, wouldn't I have more of a heart for God and feel comfortable around His people? But instead, I found my comfort in my selfishness, in pornography, in drug use. Shouldn't something be different? So I decided to start walking away from the way I was raised, and I really wanted to find where I could find my worth and where I could escape this sense of depression and things I was feeling and not knowing what I should do or what to believe. So I went on a 3-month trip where I hitchhiked across the country, and I bought a bicycle and I biked about 3,500 miles around the country, and I felt a lot of this excitement, and maybe that's where I could find my worth in living an exciting life, or maybe being noticed by others for doing things that to them seemed very difficult. So I'm not gonna lie, during my trip, I had a lot of fun. There was a lot of things to keep me busy, but when I got back, that's when it really started sinking in that it didn't change any of the problems I was dealing with. It kind of all fell void and meaningless in the grand scheme of things. I needed to find other ways to work God out of my life. I searched out more information on evolution and other theories of thought that could explain away God and explain away all these things I had been taught growing up, because I didn't want to believe it anymore. So in 2015, I started dating the girl who's now my wife, and she was going to church. So I decided, well, I can put on that Christian face again, I guess. So after we were dating for a while, I kind of came to a crossroads. Am I gonna keep putting on a face of Christianity, or am I gonna believe in God, or am I gonna push Him away again? So one day I was over at my brother's. We're talking about salvation, how I never had that salvation moment. I never felt like God saved me. And he shared a few verses with me, both in Acts and Romans, where it talks about if you confess with your mouth Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised Him from the dead, you will be saved. I didn't have to wait for God to give me a fuzzy feeling or to take my brain out and put in a new Christian brain. I just had to believe God and what He said. I didn't have to listen to my heart and wait for an emotional change. I just had to believe. Finally, one day I did. I turned to Him and said, I believe you. I believe what you've done for me. And I can't believe the grace and the patience He had to stay with me and love me through me pushing Him away and me trying to push Him out of my life, that He was with me that whole time. Today I know that God's grace and faithfulness are true and more trustworthy than my feelings. It's been 5 years now of learning to trust Christ and learning to trust my emotions and how I'm feeling that day less, but more on learning to trust the never-changing goodness of God.